The first thing I want you to do is open up the Google form and leave it open in a tab that we can go back to. This is where we're going to record our results. Each time we look at one of the experiments, one of the mixing events, we're going to look for evidence and we're going to check off things that we see and we're going to check off whether we think a chemical reaction took place or not. In the first experiment, I'm mixing uncooked rice and uncooked beans together. Were any bubbles or light or heat given off? No. Was a new substance formed with different properties? No. Is it a permanent change? No, I can easily separate them. Do we think a chemical reaction has happened here? I'm going to check off no, a chemical reaction has not happened here. For the first few experiments, I'm going to guide you through the Google form. For the last couple, I'm going to ask you to do them on your own. Next, I'm going to mix together salt and pepper. Are any bubbles or light or heat given off? No. Was a new substance formed with different properties? No. Is it a permanent change? No, we can separate them. Do I think a chemical reaction has happened here? No, I think a chemical reaction has not happened here. Next, I'm going to mix together salt and water. Things are getting a little bit more complicated. After I mix the salt and water together, it does look pretty different because now the salt is in pieces so small that we can't see it. So you might be thinking that a new substance has formed. Is it a permanent change? Well, if we had enough time, I could show you that if we left a bowl of salt and water out at room temperature, the water would evaporate and the salt would be left behind. You can try that experiment. It takes a couple of days. So it's not a permanent change. The salt just gets broken into little bits and we can get the salt out at the end. It's not a chemical reaction. What if I take a piece of bread and I break it into smaller pieces? It didn't give off any light or heat or bubbles, but it is a permanent change. The bread is in smaller pieces. I can't just put them back together again. But they're still bread. We didn't make a new substance. It is not a chemical reaction. What if I put a piece of bread in the toaster oven and I toast it? It's not giving off heat. We're using the heat from the toaster oven. When the toast is done, it looks pretty different. It's darker, it smells different, and it tastes different too. We made a new substance. We made toasted bread. We cannot change it back into untoasted bread. It is a permanent change, and it is a chemical reaction. We combined the carbohydrates in the bread with oxygen in the air to make the toast. Usually when you cook something, or you burn it, or you set it on fire, that's usually a chemical reaction. Next, we're going to mix some vinegar and some baking soda together. Let's watch closely and see if we can see evidence of a chemical reaction. I want you to check and see, are there bubbles or light or heat being given off? Do you think it's a permanent change? Do you think a new substance was formed? Do you think a chemical reaction took place? Do this one on your own and check off what you think in the Google form. Next, I'm going to mix together water and baking soda. Do you think a chemical reaction is taking place here? Look for the evidence and check off what you think. Next, I'm going to mix together water and baking powder, which is not the same thing as baking soda. Let's look for evidence of a chemical reaction and check off what you think. Next, I'm going to take some old pennies that have gotten very brown and put them in a bowl with some vinegar and some salt. I'm going to swoosh them around a little bit and then take them out and check them. Looks like the color has gotten brighter. Do you think this is a chemical reaction? This last experiment is the most complicated one. You need water that's between about 100 degrees and 115 degrees Fahrenheit. If you dissolve some powdered yeast in this warm water and you add some sugar, I wonder what will happen. Let's watch closely. I'm speeding this up because in real life it takes about 5 minutes. Let's watch it sped up. Let's look for signs of a chemical reaction. What do you think? Check off in the Google forum if you think a chemical reaction is taking place.